Hey there, my name is Eric Stoff. I make music with my wife and friends in a band called the Stoffs. And you're watching this video, which is part of a video series called Little Flock Deconstructed, where I break down the stories behind all the songs on the album. I talk about the lyrics and the production that went into it. And the video you're about to watch is kind of a studio tour, kind of a rig rundown, gear overview of all the stuff that went into making Little Flock. Before we jump into it, please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and follow me on Instagram at Eric J. Stoff. Let's roll that bumper video because I think it's cute and I worked pretty hard on it. First of all, everything was recorded in this room. It's a spare bedroom that Brooke and I have had as our office since we moved here 4 years ago, and it's not acoustically treated. It's nothing special. It is just a room with my guitars and computer and desk, and Brooke's stuff is on the other side of the office. Everything was recorded in this room except the saxophone, which was recorded in Breeze, Illinois, because the saxophone player, Blake Cordy, is a band director at a high school there. And the drums were recorded at Northview Church in Kokomo, Indiana. This is my condenser microphone. It's an Aston Origin microphone. It was recommended to me by someone who I trust very much, and it's not let me down. It is very affordable, and it was used on all acoustic guitar, vocals, violin, and even some like effects that I did in post-production. Speaking of acoustic guitar, this is the only acoustic guitar you hear on the album. It's a Seagull S6 Cedar GT. There's nothing special about it. I bought it used on Craigslist a few years ago, and I don't really like playing acoustic guitar, so I basically only play it when I really need to in a recording. This is the OP1 made by Teenage Engineering. It's an expensive little synthesizer that looks like a toy. It's fun like a toy, but it's also a total game changer for me when I record. I use this for synthesizers. I used it for some percussion. I used it for effects, some like vocal manipulation things. It appears on almost every track on the album, and I described it as like kind of a sprinkle of salt across the whole thing. Since I got it late in the process, it wasn't part of the writing of any of these songs, but it really brought some new life to some stuff that felt stale to me towards the end of making Little Flock. Little Flock would not be the album that it is without this and kind of some of the ideas that it generated. This is my Ableton Push. It is basically a really easy MIDI keyboard for me to play because I really am pretty bad behind a normal keyboard. So this makes it easier for me to play keys and program things. I record everything in Ableton Live, so Ableton Live and Push are really big parts of my songwriting process. This is my Helix floor model back here. It's an amp modeler and effects unit, and I use it for most of the guitar tracks on the record. There are also a lot of guitar tracks that employ a free amp modeling software called Bias. And then only one song on the album uses a real guitar amp, and that would be Sheep. This is the electric guitar that you hear across pretty much every song. It is a Fender American Stratocaster. I bought it at the beginning of 2018 and really fell in love with it. So it's not the only electric guitar you hear because I buy, sell, trade a lot, and some other ones kind of snuck in for a recording session and then I would sell them, but this is the main one. This is my Fender P-Bass. It's a Mexican P-Bass that I've had for a few years. I really like it, and it was also used through the Helix for pretty much every bass track. I use flat wound strings, which are really warm and dark sounding. That's really the bass tone that I go for. Lastly, there are a few bass tracks on the record that aren't handled by the P-Bass or a synth bass, and those are fretless bass tracks that were laid down using this monstrosity. This is an old LTD ESP Viper. I bought it for like $20 when I was in high school. The previous owner abused it. I abused it even more. I sanded it down to like a matte finish that looks terrible. I rewired it to only use the neck pickup and one volume knob. I stripped the frets off of it, made it a fretless bass, and you gotta see this. The control cavity doesn't even have the panel on it anymore. and then the input jack just hangs loose. So it's a little embarrassing. It never leaves this room, but it is kind of fun to mess around with fretless bass every once in a while and see how it fits in. Fretless bass is used on payday. It is also used on Labor Day, is the main bass on Labor Day, and it's used for some effects on Down the Fell as well. All right, so that's a little bit of a studio tour. I would loosely define this as a studio and that as a tour, but you know, a showing around of the things that were used on Little Flock. Next video, we're gonna dive into the first track on the album, Payday, so I will see you then and there, which is also just here on your phone or computer or whatever.